The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's about 10 minutes too late. We'll get started here pretty soon with our webinar regarding student loan debt and how to conquer it. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to type them in or raise your hand, and I will answer my questions towards the end. But for now, we'll just wait for about 10 minutes, and then we'll get started. I've posted 3 files into the webinar that will provide you with information further in depth than what we're going to go into tonight. And if you should have the need to contact me, my name is Scott Vance, and as you see on the presentation, I'm with Trishley Financial Advising, and that's our website. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Scott Vance again from Trishly Financial Advising. Welcome to tonight's webinar. Before we begin, I'd like to do a quick sound check. Please raise your hand if you can hear me well. Okay, I'll give you a couple seconds. Okay, good. And just a note too as well, I have attached several files, 3 of them, for you to download and use that get more in depth into the various programs you have for loan forgiveness. And I am assuming right off the bat that since you're here listening to this webinar regarding dealing with student loan debt, you do in fact have student loan. So I'm going to send out a question for you to answer. And okay, and then please go ahead and respond back. I'll give you a minute. Okay, thanks for responding to that question. We'll go ahead and get started. So here I am. I'm Scott Vance again, and I'm with Trishly Financial Advising. We are a fee-only financial advising firm. Basically, that means that we don't sell products like some of the big ones do. That puts us in a fiduciary position, basically meaning we work for you and you only. So most investment advisors that people think of today only have to fill the suitability standard. I come under the fiduciary standard. The difference between the fiduciary standard and the suitability standard was explained to me. This is the simplest way to put it is for the suitability standard, it's like a salesman selling you a suit. He only has to make sure it's suitable enough to fit you. Doesn't care about the color. It can be the cheapest material, whatever. As long as it fits you, you're good. So as a fiduciary, as I am under the fiduciary standard, I not only have to sell you a suit that fits you, I have to make sure that the product is good quality, it's the right color, it's not too many buttons or what have you. And as we go through this, if at the end of this, if you need further information, you can contact me and I'll provide that at my website, and we'd be happy to help you. So this is what we're going to cover tonight. 4 quick subjects. This webinar shouldn't take longer than 40 to 45 minutes. And at the end of this, you'll have the information you need to pay off your student loans in the best way possible. Just as a note, as a reminder, if you have any questions during the webinar, go ahead and type your questions in or raise your hand. I probably will not stop, just depending on where we are in the brief. So the first bit of information we're going to cover is your loan. So your loans, so nowadays they have this thing called the National Student Loan Data System, otherwise known as NSLDS. This site provides all the information about your loans, about your federal student loans, I should say. Basically giving you the information as to how much you owe, how much you originally took out, and who the servicer on that loan is. The website provides information about what repayment program you're on. And it's the first place you should begin with if you're having difficulties making payments on your loans or considering other payment options. And it's important to keep close to this as the student leaves college. Generally, you have anywhere from a 6 to a 9-month grace period after which you're expected to start making payments. And most students, the highest percentage of missed payments occur at the very beginning until they get used, so they forget that the 6-month thing is there. So this NSLDS will provide a place as you exit college to monitor your loan and figure out when your first payment's due. And finally, it also has some money-saving tips that you can look at. And so how do you find this NSLDS? So this is up at the top here is the website address for the NSLDS. And this is a screen capture of the homepage of the NSLDS. As you can see, basically in that blurb paragraph there, it's a centralized location for all your federal loan data. So now that you know where the site is and how to get there, how do you get access to the site? So here it is. This is the way you register essentially for access to the site. This is the registration page of your NSLDS. The data request is standard, so your social security number, well, there's your last name and date of birth. The one thing here is your PIN, which you will receive on your FAFSA paperwork or your promissory note for the loans that you've taken out. Now, when you do get access to the NSLDS, this is kind of looking at what your account would look like. As you can see, this person has 3 Stafford loans, 1 unsubsidized, 2 subsidized, and there'd be the whole gamut of different loans that you would have there that are federal loans. Across the top, you've got the loan amount, which is the amount you took out, your date that you received the funds, and then the actual amount that was dispersed. Further down, it goes into the canceled amount, your outstanding principal, and your outstanding interest. And as we can see in this case, the individual has 1 loan currently that they have outstanding principal on, and then 2 other loans that were paid off. It looks like probably quite a long time ago. This concludes our discussion of the NSLDS. If there's any specific questions about the NSLDS, I'll pause a minute to answer anything that's not too long. Okay, I've not seen anybody submit any questions, so we're going to move on. So if you're having problems making payments, what do you do? So if you're having difficulties making your monthly payment, deferment is your primarily would be your main choice. Deferment is preferred over the other methods of dealing with problems of making payments. Now on the left column here, you can see the conditions which would have to be in place for you to be eligible to request a deferment. On the right provides information about the deferment. The key for this is that it temporarily suspends loan payments. Other options, specifically forbearance, would be either a suspension or just a reduction, so you might still be on the hook for those payments. And then also with regards to the interest on the deferment, so the government pays your interest on a subsidized loan for a deferment. Now, it doesn't pay for an unsubsidized loan, but as you'll see further with forbearances, you don't get any interest paid by the government. And also, as always, dealing with these things, you have to apply to the loan servicer, and then you also need to make sure that you can keep making payments until this is approved. Once you miss payments and you've gone and actually defaulted, then it becomes a whole nother problem trying to get the loans fixed. So now that we've talked about deferment, the next thing we'll talk about is forbearance. So forbearance, as you can see on the left, gives you the various ways in which you can become eligible for forbearance. As I said before, forbearance is less preferred over the deferment, since basically they take a look at how much you are actually making and how much you need to pay. So your temporary could be a total temporary postponement, or it could just be a reduction of the payments. And the key here is that the interest, unlike the deferment, the interest on subsidized and unsubsidized loans continues to accrue. And again, just like the warning for the deferment, make sure you apply to your servicer and keep continuing making those payments until you're approved. So now that we've gone through the two methods to deal with payments being to reduce payments in certain situations, we're going to look at repayment options. So with regards to repayment options, hopefully before you get into a situation where you need to get a forbearance or deferment, you are able to select a payment option which fits into your financial circumstances. It's key that you consider holistically everything in your financial world, and that you are able to continue to make those payments at least for 10 years, because as you'll see later on, some of the loan forgiveness programs require at least 10 years of payments before you can become eligible for loan forgiveness. Servicers are required. Loan servicers are required to allow you to switch at least annually, but most will allow it to be more often. And just also keep in mind, if you're really motivated paying the balance off early, you can pay it off early at any time, and there's no penalty for doing so. So what are the student loan repayment plans? So there's the different types of student loan repayments. Just for the standard repayment to begin with, that is generally when you come out of your education and you start paying on your loans, you're rolled into the standard repayment, which allows for a 10-year repayment period on a monthly basis. This is the best choice of all. It's repaid, the loan is repaid in the shortest amount of time, and you pay the least amount of interest. Next one down, so everybody's rolled into the standard repayment. Now, if you want to change, you have to apply to do so. So your first choice is graduated repayment. So basically what this is your payment starts at a low rate and then increases every 2 years. So this is good for people that are expecting their incomes to rise in the future. But you end up paying more in interest on this than the standard repayment. And your payment is still for those 10 years. The extended repayment. This basically extends the period that you can repay your loan up to 25 years. Sometimes 30 years, depends on the specific loan that you have. But in general, it's 25. So you must have a total of $30,000 in federal loans. More interest is paid, a lot more interest is paid in this than the other two, obviously because of the longer term. And like I said, you must have a minimum amount of $30,000 in student loans. The income-based repayment plan. The income-based repayment plan is based on your income. So your monthly payment ends up being not more than 15% of your discretionary income. To be eligible, you have to have a extreme financial hardship. And as your income increases or you recover from financial hardship, your payments will increase. In this loan, if you haven't paid the loan in full after 25 years of qualifying payments, which is a monthly payment on time for the right amount, so 25 years times 12 of qualifying on time correct payments, you would be eligible possibly for having the balance forgiven. And then obviously with this, you would pay a larger amount of interest. And then finally, the pay-as-you-earn repayment. Again, very similar to the income-based repayment. It's based on your income and then your discretionary income that comes from the regular income. Again, you must have a financial hardship. And this is just, it's the difference between this and the income-based repayment is just the particulars on what loans can be used with this. Now, just so everybody's aware, the last three, if you would become eligible for one of the loan forgiveness programs that we'll talk about in a few minutes, you would need to use one of the either the extended repayment, income-based repayment, or pay-as-you-earn repayment, because these, and I'll talk about it there as well, but you basically need to have at least 10 years of payments to become eligible for loan forgiveness, which if you have the standard repayment or the graduated repayment, at 10 years your loan will be paid off. So now that we've just covered the different repayment plans, we're going to go take a look at the website where you would do this. So this website is run by the Department of Education. And this provides you with some basic information about the various repayment plans, and then the calculators. There's a calculator there that will let you take a look at how much you'll pay in interest, and it's a tool for you to figure out what is best for your situation. So here's what you would see should you do that loan repayment calculator. As you can see on the right, the various monthly loan payment amounts based on which repayment plan you're using. So direct consolidation loan. So for federal loans, you're allowed to consolidate your multiple different loans into a new loan, basically what is known as refinancing. As a part of this extends you to a longer repayment period of up to 30 years. The longer repayment period you end up paying more overall, but you have reduced monthly payments. Your interest rate on your consolidation loan is not necessarily lower. Basically what happens is they average the interest rates of all the loans, and they come up with the average. And just as a note, there's no loan amounts or no loan fees. So if somebody is trying to charge you money to do this, run away, as they should not be charging you. And then loans, just as a note, loans must be in grace period, repayment, or deferment. So basically you can't be in school and then consolidate the loans, and you also cannot be defaulted on the loans and consolidate the loans. And the bad part of consolidating your loans is you lose certain protections that each of the individual loan programs provides. Obviously, the positive is one payment for all the money to one servicer. And this is just a calculator showing what happens when you consolidate the loans and the differences in the payments. And then this is the website. Excuse me. This is the website you would go to get information about the loan consolidations and to apply for it. And again, beware of anybody that tries to get you to pay a fee to do this. This should be totally free. So last thing we're going to talk about is loan forgiveness programs. This is the website for you to look on the internet to find out more about it. Also, two of the handouts I have talk about the loan forgiveness programs. So Stafford Loan Forgiveness Program for Teachers obviously is for teachers. You can see the stipulations. It has to be a full-time teacher for 5 complete consecutive academic years after 1997-1998 academic year, which I hope we shouldn't have any issue with that. right now. And this is not all schools. So these are targeted towards certain schools that serve low-income families and disadvantaged populations. You may be eligible for a loan up to $17,500 on your federal student loan. And obviously you have to have a balance on your loan. The public service loan forgiveness. This one's a little bit different. So basically this expands the employment. And this is where I was talking about earlier about 10 years of payments. So borrowers under public service loan forgiveness are eligible to receive 100% of the remaining balance of their loans to be forgiven. This is after 120 separate on-time full monthly payments and while employed full-time for the qualified public service employers. Obviously, this is most beneficial for people who have a lot of debt relative to their income. So again, this could be applied to teachers, firemen, police, military. And as you'll see, there's also opportunities for people who work in the charitable sector. And this is new. So the first time this is going to be, so because of this was started in 2007. So 10 years of payments, 2017, October 1st, 2017 will be the first time that those loans will be forgiven. And according to the IRS says that this amount was not going to be treated as taxable income, but that's always a possibility with a loan that you owe somebody and is eventually forgiven. So qualifying employment, you can see the standards, but basically a government job, so federal, state, or local, or tribal. And here's what I was talking about, not-for-profit tax-exempt organization under the code, under the IRS code. And then even private not-for-profit organizations that help in public services. So things like hospitals, and so doctors and dentists and those. So again, the actual type of the employment with the organization does not matter. So for the public service loan forgiveness would be for the fireman or for the fireman that fights fires for the fire department, or the mechanic that works on the fire trucks for the fire department, or the admin person that works in the office of the fire department. Again, teachers can apply and are not exempted from using this, even though they have possibly a better deal with the teacher loan forgiveness program. You don't necessarily have to work at the same location. You can work at multiple organizations. But basically, you have to have been working full-time. So a combination of 2 part-times equaling full-time would be eligible. So as you can see, the 120 separate full-time on-time payments required before you can apply. And then here we go with the repayment plan. So like I said, you must use the income base and the 3 here at pay as you earn. Simply a math problem. If you cannot become eligible for public service loan forgiveness until at least 10 years of payments, any loan repayment program that pays it off in 10 years will result in no remaining balance. So as you can see. So this is just an example of a public service loan forgiveness example, and how the different repayment programs affect the amount that you ultimately have forgiven for the loan. So basically, most federal government student loans are eligible for this program. As you can see, the two loans, the Perkins and the FFEL, or Family or Federal Family Education loans, have to be consolidated into a direct consolidation loan. This you have to be careful of. This is where you get into each of those individual nuances of those federal loan programs, because you may lose certain Perkins cancellation benefits if you consolidate those loans together, which may be a better situation for you than using the public service loan program. And again, here, this program will not allow for loans that have been defaulted on. Just as an administrative thing, the Federal Loan Services, PHEAA, is responsible for administering the PSLF. And then basically you cannot receive both the teacher loan forgiveness program, which was the prior loan forgiveness program we talked about, which you would end up getting some of your loan forgiveness after 5 years, and this one for the same period of teaching service. Here's what you have to do in order to get to file for this loan forgiveness. One of the files I have talks about the public service loan forgiveness program. There's the website to apply for this, and like I said, as this is the first payment's coming in October 1st of 2017, so we're still over 18 months away. Some of these requirements may shift a little bit. So before in the PSLF, we talked about the federal Perkins loan teacher. So this is the Perkins loan, some of the perks of using the Perkins loan. So as you can see, 100% of cancellation possibly if you've been a teacher in certain school districts. So schools serving low incomes or special ed teachers, and then each of the states are able to determine certain shortages of teachers that they have. So here you see mathematics, science, foreign languages, or bilingual education. So if you're teaching in one of those fields, then you are eligible for the federal Perkins loan teacher cancellation. As you can see, they cancel a certain amount of the loan based on the number of years you work in the position that is eligible for this. So here's some websites that you can use for student loan references. If you have questions, you can look at those sites. And obviously always contact me and I can help you. So I've ended about 10 minutes early. If there's any questions at this time, I'd be happy to take them. If not, if you have any questions in the future, please feel free to contact me at Scott Vance at TrishleyFinancialAdvising.com, or our website is www.TrishleyFinancialAdvising.com. Thank you for your attention tonight. I'm not seeing any questions come up. Okay. Have a good night, ladies and gentlemen.